Last left off, we was talking about Sargon the Great, and we looked at his descendant, and his descendant is Naram Sin. Let's see. Last left off, we was talking about Sargon the Great. Shit. And we looked at his descendant, and his descendant is what's up, ISIS? The first civilization. So the first person or first civilization we got is Sumer. Modern day Iraq, 3500 BCE. Now, we look at Sargon the Great, his descendants. Wait, that's the wrong one. His grandson is Naram Sin. Let's see his other names. Naram Sin. Not much. Let's see his descendants. If he don't have any, I believe he is Nimrod. Yeah. Mm. Let's go back. So the biblical figure is potentially inspired by Mesopotamian Naram Sin. Huh. Interesting. So Nimrod was the one that created the Tower of Babel. Biblical and non-biblical traditions identify Nimrod as the ruler associated with the Tower of Babel. What was the Tower of Babel? Why do they keep saying the biblical story? Whatever. Tower of Babel is a biblical story from the book of Genesis about humanity's attempt to build a tower reaching the heavens, which was stopped by God. To thwart the project and to teach a lesson about pride, God confused their single language into many, forcing people to scatter across the earth and leaving the tower unfinished. And this is how it looked. I wonder why. Like, what's the reason behind this type of construction if this is what it's supposed to be? Who the fuck is Peter Bruegel? The Elder. Painter and printmaker. I guess. What is he, a Renaissance artist? Of course. What did he contribute? By pioneering genre painting and shifting the focus from religious and mythological themes to everyday peasant life and landscapes. Huh? How do you distinguish the two though? What? That's a hell of a jump. But alright. Akkadian Empire. Out that came Babylon. And if we're familiar with the Babylonian school system. Of course, it ain't got no school system. The term mystery schools refers to ancient Greek and Roman secret societies with initiations and rituals, while mystery Babylon is a religious and political concept from the biblical book of Revelation. Is it? Okay, let's look up Babylonia then. Yeah, I didn't spell that right. Okay. Damn. They had this shit on lock. Okay. So the question I'm gonna have to ask later is what came from here, here, and here. So Assyrians absorbed Sumerian and Akkadian knowledge, especially in law, literature, and administration, becoming a dominant empire by the first millennium before Christ's era. Elam, Elamites interacted with Sumerians, eventually adopting cuneiform writing and aspects of Sumerian culture. Cuneiform. What does this mean? Explain the context. The first writing systems in human history. Harappan civilization. So this make up Pakistan and northwest India. Trade with Mesopotamia facilitated cultural exchanges influencing urban planning and economic systems. Egypt, the Nile Valley civilization developed contemporaneously with trade links introducing agricultural techniques and ideas. Canaan and the Levant. So Sumerians, innovations, blah blah blah. I asked about this because it mentioned this. A lot of people be obsessed with this right here. So they say we moving west. Who were the Canaanites? People living in a land called Canaan, attested for around the late 3rd millennium BCE. So the 2000s of BCE. They weren't a single unified empire, but a network of city-states, such as, that's interesting, Ugarit, whatever the fuck this is, Sidon, Tyre, Hazar, Megiddo, Jericho. So I'm gonna have to look into these because you see this. They shared, blah blah blah. Alright, so let's see what comes out of Babylonian culture. I'm not trying to see any of this revelation. Sure. Yeah, that's weird. So it's mentioned in the Bible when apparently it was a civilization. Babylonian civilization contributed to law codes like the Code of Hammurabi. Legal texts proposed during. Damn. It's the longest, best organized, and best preserved legal text from the ancient Near East. So, what exactly is it? Damn, it's at the Louvre. Hmm. Okay, so laws 1 through 5. If a man accuses another man and charges him with homicide but cannot bring proof against him, his accuser shall be killed. Fuck. Damn. So you. Damn. Okay, this is stealing, kidnapping. If a man breaks into a house, they shall kill him and hang him in the front of that very breach. And this is what's coming out of Babylon. Okay. If a man has a debt lodged against him and the storm god, who is dude? I gotta look into this. Storm god, Adad. That rhymes. Is that, wasn't that how it's spelled? Okay. Oh wow. A Sumerian god. Was the storm and rain god in the Canaanite and ancient Mesopotamian religions. So it's really ancient Mesopotamian. He was attested in Ebla as Hada in 2500 BCE. And this is his statue. And these are soldiers carrying his statue. And this was carved into a wall or artwork. Hmm. Niggas. Alright. If a merchant should give silver to a trading agent for an investment venture, and he, the trading agent, incurs a loss on his journeys, he shall return silver to the merchant in the amount of the capital sum. Okay. If a man takes in adoption a young child at birth, literally it in its water, and then rears him, that child would not be reclaimed. What does that mean? Why is that a law? I think I'm skipping a lot of these too. The specific provisions. False charges, false testimony, falsification of judgment. He was getting killed ultimately. Stealing and receiving stolen property, kidnapping, harboring fugitive slaves, breaking and entering, burglary, looting, burning houses. He was getting killed. Uh oh damn, I ain't even finished reading this. A drought devastates his field, or a flood sweeps away the crops, or there is no grain grown in the field due to insufficient water. In that year he will not repay grain to his creditor. He shall suspend performance of his contract, literally wet his clay tablet, and he will not give interest payments for that year. Damn. On what you couldn't cut down trees. Okay. If in, what is this? Akkadian language text. Awalam, I guess. If it, whatever it is, should blind the eye of another. So if a nigga should blind the eye of another nigga, they shall blind his eye. Huh. If a nigga should blind the eye of another nigga, they should blind his eye. Old type shit. So if he makes somebody blind, he going blind too. If he kills somebody, he getting put down too. If a builder constructs a house for a man but does not make it comfort to specifications so that a wall then buckles, the builder shall make that wall sound like his silver. Oh, sound using his silver. Oh, so he coming out of his own pocket. That makes sense though. Don't rent nobody's shit if your shit ain't fixed. If an ox gores to death a man while it is passing through the streets, there is no legal basis for claims. Ooh, I mean, I guess that is pretty random. If Ox just kill you on the street, how you plan on getting money? It's just, I guess that's they luck. If a man rents a boat of 60 cur capacity, he shall give 1/6 of shekel of silver per day as its hire. I don't know what money was like back then. If a slave should declare to his master, "You are not my master," he, the master, shall bring charge and proof against him that he is indeed his slave, and his master shall cut off his ear. Hmm. I feel like they really adopted this one right here. Just less cutting off of ear. Oh wow, look at this guy. Both create legal clothes with the Louvre steel has been compared. Wait, whoa. Theories of purpose. The purpose and legal authority of code have been disputed since the mid 20th century. Theories fall into three main categories. That is, legislation, whether a code of law or a body of statutes that is a sort of law report containing records of past cases and judgments, and that is an abstract work of jurisprudence. The jurisprudence theory has gained such support within Assyriology. What the fuck is this, bro? There's something new every fucking thing you go down. So, of course, Assyriology is scholarly field that investigates the history, languages, literature, and culture of ancient Mesopotamia. Focus on civilizations such as the Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians, whose records were preserved in cuneiform script. And the money? We did just look up that word, did we not? So it seemed like these type of people was fascinated with this type of work and eventually made it code and conduct for the whole entire world to some degree. Interesting. Alright, how do Canaanites relate to earlier civilizations? Trade and diplomacy with Akkad, Babylon, and Assyria. They borrowed writing systems, cuneiform, which used in places like Ugarit or Ugarit, myths and motifs, flood stories, divine council imagery, etc. Interesting. Flood stories, divine council imagery, etc. Explaining context. Mesopotamian influence. The Sumerians and Akkadians had famous flood myths like the one in the Epic of Gilgamesh, where a great deluge wipes out humanity except for one survivor. Hmm. They got that in the Epic of Gilgamesh? I thought he was just fighting lions and shit. Canaanite connection. Through trade and cultural contact, Canaanite myths absorbed similar motifs. Flood stories became part of the broader Near Eastern mythological tradition. Biblical echoes, later Israelite texts like the story of Noah in Genesis show clear parallels to these Mesopotamian flood traditions, reflecting shared mythic themes across the region. Political ideas, city kings, vassal relationship tribute. Influences from Egypt. Canaan sat between Egypt and Mesopotamia, so it was a strategic bridge. Egypt exerted strong control over Canaan, especially in the New Kingdom around 1500 to 1200 BCE. Egyptian gods, art styles, luxury goods, and administration left marks in Canaanite cities. So Canaanite culture is a part of a bigger Near Eastern network, not an isolated offshoot. Did civilization branch out? So we got urban life and complex society spread from Mesopotamia westward and northward, from Egypt up to Levant. The Levant Canaan developed its own city-states, its own language, its own religion and myth through sharing themes with neighbors. So Canaanite cultures are a part of a later wave of civilization in the Near East shaped by earlier Mesopotamian and Egyptian developments, local Levantine traditions and populations. So if I search this, I'm sure it's going to tell me that it's just Canaanite or Canaan. Important legacy of Canaanite cultures. Canaanite cultures had a huge impact on later history. The Phoenicians. Now, I had looked up the Phoenicians earlier because I think that was like a major language back then. It's Phoenician and something that start with an M. It's like let's see, it's Phoenician and I don't even know if I got it on these. Mm, I don't think so. Yeah, I'm gonna figure it out eventually. Uh, so we got the Phoenicians. Interesting. Hold on, cause I do actually know. Where seafaring civilizations from the what? Modern day Lebanon. Interesting. Oh, I think it was Minoan and Phoenicians. So I'm guessing these was the Minoans, and these was the Phoenicians. Phoenician, Minoan. Minoan, Phoenician. Oh wait, what? For sure, Phoenician. Of course, it say fall of black civilizations. Oh damn, and he Minoan. Boy, was I wrong. Okay, differences. The main differences are the Minoans were a Bronze Age civilization on Crete while the Phoenicians were a Semitic people from Levant, modern Lebanon, who rose to prominence later. Hmm. So things start to get very puzzling. Semitic people. Let's see. Hmm. Kind of look like a Aztecian civilization. This a little bit more Greek, but this one is for sure like Aztec. Like this, I can just see this small distinct area, like some ancient Greece shit. But maybe that's just a piece of the whole. No Diddy. Mm. All right, let's keep going. So they developed and spread alphabetic script that influenced Greek, Latin, and even mostly Western alphabets. Ancient Israel and Judah. The early Israelites emerged within the broader Canaanite cultural world. Hebrew is a Canaanite language. Many religious concepts, places, names, or place names, and cultural practices show shared roots with other Canaanites, even when later texts polemicize against them. What does this word mean? Appears and discuss how the Hebrew Bible portrays the relationship means to argue strongly against something, often in a confrontational or critical way. Polemicize. Interesting. Religious and mythical influence. Canaanite myths, especially from Ugarit, shared themes with later biblical literature. Storm god versus sea chaos. Baal versus Yam echoes in some biblical imagery. Who is Yam? I never heard a dude. How this stupid dorm. The ball's in your court. How this doofus sporn god became a demonic symbol. Hey man, I just was telling Cuz man, One Piece kinda different, bro. Cause if this is Davy Jones, we know who Joy Boy is. And that's just a little tiny reference for the ones that know. The three balls, crazy. No Diddy. A standard Semitic storm god, Baal Hadad from Ugarit, right here. Kind of look like Loki, a receiver of burnt child sacrifices. Kind of like Loki. Hammond from Carthage, the center right here. A prime evil and lord of destruction from the video game Diablo from the right. The fuck they had dude for? Anyway, you have to feel a little sorry for Baal. A few other guys get so much a bad rap. When you think of Zeus, you probably imagine a bearded old man with a lightning bolt, not a horned demon from the gaping pits of hell. Other ancient gods of the Middle East, like Egyptian sun god Amun-Ra or the Babylonian storm god Marduk, don't have such nasty representations in popular culture or in popular religion as poor old Baal do. I mean, a receiver of burnt child sacrifices. He get a bad rep for me too. No. Who is Baal? It's actually not the name of a specific god. Baal is a title meaning Lord. In Bible translations, you seen you often see Yahweh's name written as the Lord in all caps. The word Baal functions a bit like the ancient Canaanite and Phoenician version of that practice, except it's been appended to a few different gods' names throughout history. As such, Baal has come to function as a sort of stand-in for Canaanite Phoenician religion as a whole, and in particular, the nastier bits of that religion involving child sacrifice. Anyway, what they basically mean is they both got the same meaning for this name, which is light bearer. And some of us can go the light way, some of us can take the dark path. Ugh, when people understand. Perhaps the most famous Baal is Baal Hadad, the rider of the clouds, or on the clouds. The name Hadad is associated with an ancient Semitic storm god. Much of what we know about this deity comes from Baal, the Baal cycle, an epic story written in 1300 BC on tablets found in Ugarit, a Canaanite city in what is now western Syria. Tablets are damaged and the text is fragmentary, but the story that emerges should be familiar to students of ancient mythology. Why is that? Like many ancient gods, Baal Hadad and his adversaries represent forces of nature. Baal the hero is a storm and fertility god. In the ancient Middle East, storms could be unpredictable and destructive, but agriculture and thus civilization depend on the rain they brought. Baal battles two adversaries in the story. The first is Yam, the personification of the sea. The second is Ma'at, the god of death associated with the desert and drought. Yam and Ma'at represent the hostile natural forces local to the Canaanites, who lived sandwiched between the dangerous, chaotic Mediterranean Sea and the lifeless wasteland of the Syrian desert. Yeah, that gotta be fucked. And this probably was like, nah, that shit probably always been a fucking desert. Let's be honest. Unless it's not now. I heard the Amazon was a desert or something like that. But it's man-made for sure. It's unclear what exactly precipitates the first fight between Baal Hadad and Yam, but the fight they do, and what a battle it is. Baal wins by smashing Yam with the magical club. Huh. The club swooped from Baal's hands like a vulture from his fingers. It struck Prince C on the skull, Judge River between the eyes. C stumbled. He fell to the ground. His joints shook. His frame collapsed. Baal captured and pierced C. He finished off Judge River. Asart shouted to him by name, "Hail Baal the Conqueror, hail rider on the clouds." Okay, okie dokie. The Canaanites' cosmology matched that of the Hebrews and Mesopotamians. The ancient believed the ocean Yam was an enormous river that surrounded Earth on all sides, hence Yam's nickname, Judge River. So of course we got the firmament, we got the sun and the stars at the top though, and then we got the floodgates. So it is just cycling. I wonder why the storm and the sea can't just get along, but a cosmic battle between a storm god and a malevolent ocean deity is a common motif in ancient Semitic mythology. East of Canaan, the Babylonians had their own version of this cosmic battle story, the Enuma Elish. You even see echoes of it in the Bible book of Psalms, where Yahweh beats up the sea and its watery monster minions. Yam in Hebrew means sea. You divided the sea by your might. You broke the heads of the dragons in the waters. You crushed the heads of Leviathan. Ooh. The Israelites, like their neighbor in Canaan and Mesopotamia, probably understood that a major battle against the sea took place before the act of creation in Genesis. The ancients of the Middle East believed our world exists tenuously as a bubble of order with than the swirling chaos of the sea, like the interior of a snow globe. And the point of such a cosmic battle against the sea is to set our world's boundaries. Baal Hadad's victory over Yam also earns him his official status as Lord of the Gods. Mr. Hand and Feet. Baal Sadad or Hadad's second conflict against Mot, the god of death and drought, also has many parallels in nearby ancient myths. Though here the story bears more resemblance to cycles of fertility myths, Baal Hadad's character is quite different from both Persephone and Osiris, but like these Greek and Egyptian fertility deities, Baal too ends up dragged into the underworld, causing crops above to wither and drought until he reemerges. Mot's characterization is quite vivid: a filthy pit, a voracious mouth. At one point, Mot's voice give the following instruction for some sort of parlay. Niggas putting parlays on shit is crazy. Then head to the mountains at the edge of the underworld. Raise the mountain with your hands, the hill on the top of your palms, then go down to the isolation ward of the underworld. You will be counted among those who go down into the earth. Then head into the midst of his city, the swamp, the pit, his royal house, filth, the land of his inheritance, but divine servants, be on your guard. Don't approach El's son, Death, lest he put you in his mouth like a lamb, crush you like a kid in his jaws. Don't fuck with bro. That's what they saying. Read a straightforward mythological allegories. Baal's conquest of Yemen represents a mastery over nature, though an impairment and limited mastery, and one that Baal requires a great deal of help to achieve. In fact, Baal apparently falls to Mot, sucked into Death's maw. It is Baal's totally badass sister, Anat. Now, I don't know who Medium.com let people write on here, but I guess. Anat, who defeats Death in the battle and rescues Baal, thus returning the storm god's fertility to drought-stricken world. So, they saying freaky dude good? Cause Baal is for sure freaked. Baal Hadad himself is not the most sympathetic figure like Zeus, Indra. Zeus ain't good either, man. Or the Mesopotamian god Enlil. The Canaanite rider on the clouds is a classic storm god. He's a howdy, irresistible bore. He complains constantly about his palace and his banquets not being perfect, so he complained too fucking much. And like Zeus, Baal is also prone to having sex with animals. At one point, for reasons that may involve evading Mot but remain unclear, Baal has sex with a cow. Becomes pregnant and bears him a boy. So that's that freaked out shit we be talking about. But when Baal cooperates with others, he does have his uses. He teams up with the craftsman god Karthawa Hasis, who makes his magical clubs for his battle against the sea god Yam. And he's lucky indeed that his fearsome sister and the war goddess Anat always has his back. So who was they peoples then? Who was they parents? One way to read this story is an allegory for civilization itself. With the application of tools of civilization, technology, and warfare, the power of the storm is channeled to drive chaos and death. So, another storm versus sea. A sea cylinder shows the Babylonian version of this cosmic battle motif. Tiamat, the serpent, is destroyed by the storm god Marduk. So this is Babylonian right here. And this is the sea serpent. You know, the guy that gave the apple, or one of his other costumes. But this is simple, naturalistic reading misses the story's more interesting political angle. Damn, she got politics involved too. First part of Baal's cycle closely parallels an earlier Mesopotamian creation myth, Enuma Elish. This story also describes a battle between the storm god and the sea. Here the hero is named Marduk, who fights a primordial goddess named Tiamat. Where after Marduk beats Tiamat, he is elevated as the high god of the Mesopotamian pantheon. Crucially, Marduk has been the local god of Babylon. See how they keep these lowercase? Because these niggas really ain't shit. But the followers that be, you would think it's a capital G. Anyways, and his ascendancy over the other older deities tracks the political ascendancy of Babylon over its regional rivals in Mesopotamia. In the Baal cycle, Baal Hadad also achieves ascendancy over his fellow gods. He orders them to build him a palace, the mark of a king. This supremacy is, after all, what the title Baal signifies. He becomes lords of the gods. One god in particular seems ratherly slighted by Baal's cycle narrative, El, the high father god and former head of the Canaanite pantheon. For sure, El is never cast as an evil or hostile god. He is repeatedly called El, the kind and compassionate. But the Baal cycle, what? Well, let's look this up because they keep on. Baal cycle is a collection of epic poems written in Ugaritic cuneiform, Suniform. It tells the story of Baal, the storm, and the fertility god, and his struggles for kinship among the gods. These myths were part of the religious worldview of the Canaanites, shaping their rituals and theology. So it sounds like Baal was getting bullied. He was getting hoed for sure. And I guess he was doing all kind of things to get even just to look his way by the other gods. And through that, he just said, fuck that. So he beat Yam, he battled Mott, and shit, we finna find out what happened with him and El. But the Baal cycle would not have done any favors for El's PR. Yikes. When Yam comes to El's court and rudely demands he hand over Baal, El cowardly sells Baal out. Damn. And even tries to have a palace built for the malevolent ocean deity. When El declines to have a palace built for a victorious Baal, the aforementioned badass goddess not openly threatens the ancient high god, saying, "Don't rejoice in your well-built house, El. Don't rejoice in the height of your palace, or else I will seize it with my mighty arm. I'll smash your head. I'll make your gray hair run with blood, your gray beard with gore." El finally does acquiesce, reflecting the wishes of the other gods to elevate Baal. So he got hold. But when Mott, the god of death, comes calling, El turns around and sells out the storm god again. Damn. Double timing niggas out here is crazy. You wonder what fans of El thought of this story. You could read El's actions as resulting from his doting, fatherly nature. He is the father of the gods, including Baal's enemies, Mott and Yam, and he just wants the best for everyone. But you could also read El as doting, incompetent old man who is constantly and cravenly submits to the malevolent forces of the desert and the sea of death and chaos. Like the Enuma Elish political evolution of Marduk over other Mesopotamian gods, the Baal cycle can also be read politically as an argument or justification to abandon the primary worship of El in favor of Baal. So, you stop focusing on all and you just focus on one because he's the child throwing a tantrum. So, what happened to old El followers? They might have become Jews. As the Torah tells it, the Jews were native Canaanites who were enslaved by Egyptians, led to freedom by Moses, and then led back into Canaan by Joshua. That's a lot of religions in one. Like that's a lot going on. One thing for it to just be about one thing, but scholars are not sure exactly where the Jewish God names Yahweh comes from, but Yahweh is also called Elohim throughout the Torah, and he is explicitly identified as the God of the Canaanites' ancestors. Perhaps the rise of Judaism in southern Canaan reflected a kind of traditionalist reaction against the evolution of Baal over El. Though that is pure speculation on my part, what is for certain is that the ancient Israelites were not fans of Baal. So this is somebody else's research paper we reading. Shout out to whoever wrote this. Let's see where his name at. Daniel Keenis. All right, Daniel. Baal Hammon, receiver of child sacrifices. Like most ancient cultures, the Canaanites, later called Phoenicians by Greeks, offered sacrifices to their gods. The Phoenicians referred to this practice the letters MLK. Yikes. Fortunately, vowels were not a thing yet, but this word, perhaps pronounced moke. Ain't no fucking way it was pronounced moke, bro. MLK is clearly associated with the character Moloch. So if MLK was out before MLK and they called MLK, was he this? I'm probably just talking. The Hebrews Looking Glass version of an ancient Canaanite god who among his crimes received children as burnt offerings. Damn, among your crimes, bro? Damn. That's pretty fucking evil if you ask me. It's not uncommon for cultures to make up atrocities about their enemies. There's no god or no good archaeological evidence that the MLK sacrifices in Canaan involve children. So, whoa. There is no good archaeological evidence. So they got some. The MLK sacrifices in Canaan involve children. First off, how would they even know? Like if they wasn't there. Let alone child sacrifices to the god, storm god in particular. So we should probably leave poor Baal Hadad alone in that regard. Go further west. A few centuries later, though, in the Phoenicians, North of African colony of Carthage, and it's pretty clear that another Baal did receive children as burnt offerings. Oof, man. These niggas are disgusting, man. Phoenician founded colonies throughout the southern Mediterranean part of Jinn, up sufficient tribute for their domineering neighbor to the east. The Assyrian Empire, Carthage emerged as the most powerful Phoenician colony and would soon come into conflict with expanding Greek colonists in the Roman Republic. So what it sounds like is they own probably all of this shit. Let's just say all of this shit. And whoever was here got something. They had to get something. But then again, you see all this barren land. So they in reality they only got these outskirt areas in reality. Maybe this probably is good, but no, not here, and for sure not there. But I've heard that this used to be a bustling forest. What the fuck? Oh, bro blew up his gutters. Dog flew up his gutter. That shit funny as hell. Alright. The god Balhaman was not a storm god. He functioned as the civic god of Carthage, along with his divine consort Tanit. So, oh damn, well he was fighting wasn't even a thing. Look at this shit. So a human conquered these things, or something like us conquered these. Let's look that up. Parents. Wow. So Dagon. Philistines. And El. El described as the father of gods and creator of mankind. He doing that Buddha shit. Damn. His fence sitting ass got put down. Possible depiction of El with two lions. What's his origins, or what's the first introduction of El? So El Elyon, Most High God, or El Shaddai, God Almighty, is considered by modern interpreters to refer to the God of Israel, Yahweh. So this is just like absolute, like damn, I guess. Origins. Uh, ain't really got no origin for him. Supreme God. So where did he come from? Never posted on the sub before. Mostly an open Christian. Makes a lot of sense to me. El was the original top god and was later absorbed into Adania. What? Yeah, pilot, look this up for me, gang. Adania is a lord meaning my lord. In the Hebrew Bible, it is used as a reverent substitute for the divine name Yahweh. Bro, trying to sound fancy and shit. All available evidence points to Israelites emerging with NW Semitic culture. Chief deity of the Canaanites was El, so it's probably not a coincidence that the nation is named Israel. Israel. Yahweh's origins are less clear, but most scholars tend to believe he was a materialistic storm deity who originated south of Judah in the region of Edom, Midian, Teman, Seir, and Sinai. So, okay. Hmm. Finna get off stream in the next like 4 minutes. But fuck, I'm trying to think what I was just finna ask it. Damn. Let's go. Let's take a trip back. Israel. Ooh. Okay. Was interesting. Yeah, totally. Why do they refer to the Western world as Egypt? Huh. Yeah, so I fucking knew that. Yeah. No, there were no civilizations in what now the United States during the Sumerian era, same sense as Sumer or Egypt, but there were human societies and developing cultures. But there were human societies and developing cultures. When was the Sumerian era? Ubaid slash Uruk periods, early Sumerian, early dynastic Sumer. What was happening in North America? Uh, was what archaeologists call the woodland periods. Archaic to early woodland periods. Describing what happening was so wow. So it wasn't no such thing as a really first civilization then. Just somebody added a name to it. That's usually how a lot of things go, good or bad. So like when something is bad, once you give it a name, it's kind of like, damn, are you really gonna say such and such is bad? Like, yeah, he fucking is. Just 'cause he got a fucking name now, that nigga's still bad. What was happening in North America? So we had hunter-gatherers and horticulturalists. What the hell is this? People who practice small-scale plant cultivation using simple tools and techniques. In contrast, the future U.S. region was the archaic period where societies were hunter-gatherers, growing plants like gourds and sunflowers, living in small villages and seasonal camps. Any notable cultures that early? Okay. Poverty Point culture. What the fuck? Louisiana, 1700 to 1100 BC. Already later than classic Sumer. Huge earthworks and mounds, complex trade, but still are main Sumerian age. Or still after the main Sumerian age. Adena and Hopewell, that's Ohio. Mississippian cultures, the Cahokia. You know what's crazy? Cahokia is in Illinois, and we talking about Mississippian cultures. What is a Mississippian culture? I'm gonna tell you something about Mississippi. It was a great migration from the south to the north, from people in Mississippi. They were centered around the Mississippi River Valley and its tributaries. Their influence spread widely across the southeast and Midwest. Unlike the earlier archaic horticulturalists or woodland mound builders, y'all gotta look into mound builders as well because it's a lot of them, and it's a lot of them around us in Wisconsin. Mississippian societies were large, complex chiefdoms with urban centers. Urban centers, the most famous site, Cahokia, near modern St. Louis, which had tens of thousands of inhabitants at this point. Platform mounds, they built massive earthen mounds used for temples, residences of elites, and ceremonial purposes. During the core Sumerian period, small scale groups. So, okay. Uh, what art can you say came from? What art came from those societies? I probably spelled that wrong, did I? Societies. This is where it gets really interesting. We're talking about people that is now in the United States during the early Sumerian area, roughly. They didn't have cities or writing like Sumer, but They obviously had art and symbolic objects. That's why I asked about art. Because you can't find anything in writing, you can find it in art. One, carved shaped stone tools. Okay, got projectile points and blades, beautifully crafted. Spear points, dart points, and knives made of chert, flint, obsidian. So it seemed to me like the eastern side of the world is more, they're more animalistic, and you get people over here, it's more like holistic, and you know, I feel like that's why it's really a disconnect because people aren't of nature here anymore. And that's not really like the violent shit was never our thing for real. Bone, antler, and shell ornaments, simple figurines, and carved objects. Alright, I'm gonna have to get off this as I'm hungry. So we're gonna catch up back with the art of this side of the hemisphere. Then we're gonna keep branching off from um, gonna keep branching off from the first society and civilization.